This is the day that I finally talk about human design on my YouTube because, yeah, I got this after attending two different Karen Curry Parker workshops. And the generosity of that community is there's just so much pertinent information that is available before what I think are very reasonable offers are presented. Um, Now, I don't want to limit myself with money mindset stuff, saying, the other thing that I attended before was like a $9,999 buy in. Um, but I really did want to do the second relationships by design workshop because honestly, I don't know if me and my wife would have figured out this chapter of our relationship without the insights that human design provides. Um, now I would consider myself pretty good at AI at this point because I've been futzing around with it for over a year. Judge me if you will, but I have gained enough insights that feel absolutely spot on because I'm almost 40. Now, if somebody is just starting and they don't know human design at all and they don't know themselves at all based on not having a lot of maybe, like, I think actually I'm going to take that back. If you're in the middle of your life, that's when I was the most confused because I had taken on a lot of other people's programming. That might be a really hard time to understand what human design's been saying. But I'm just going to get right into um, in this book, I like to write in books. I wrote down sort of the major changes that happened even in 4 months of doing the Artist Way, which is technically a 3 month or 12-week program. It took me 4 months to get through the Morning Pages book. Um, I've like quit social media, sugar, processed foods, dairy, red meat, THC, nicotine, and started writing publicly on Substack. And I actually think the quitting was probably more because of human design, because I learned just how intuitive I am and how many things that we're accustomed to consuming, whether it's media or other people's opinions, or the foods that are not serving us because they live in a box and they're dead. Um, I will die on that hill. So don't actually come at me if you want. Um, they're dulling my intuition. And now that I've been off of all that, it's like I'm finally hearing myself and I can do things like cook while I'm presenting because I can hear the difference in when something is cooking and when something is starting to burn. It's amazing how attuned our senses can be if we allow them to be. Let's see. I've been, I went on an ayahuasca journey with my wifey bear. Um, she's now listening to The Artist's Way. I decided to move to Seattle. Funny enough, I also just decided this morning, like 30 minutes ago, to email a place that I could volunteer in LA so I could stay there longer. I'm not sure if it's because it's warmer there. I'm not sure if it's because I want to spend a little more time exploring the area and meeting some people. But I'm open to it in a way that it now makes sense why I've heard those quotes go around where the only people who are going to be upset by you being more liberated are the people that were invested in your uh, they didn't use the term slavery, but like the people who benefited from your playing small. And now that Tina and I have a better understanding of each other's needs, it's like I need to follow my creative. I don't even want to call them impulses because those have been demonized over the years. When I look back at my life and the hunches that I had, the nudges that the universe gave me, when I follow them, magical things happen. And literally all of the other times where I've been like, I need to do what I'm supposed to do, and I need to do like, what I was trained to do and whatever. Like, it's been like Jim Carrey talks about how depression is your avatar being tired of playing the role that you've asked it to play. And that accurately describes a lot of the times when I felt like my life was not enjoyable and was really hard to wake up in the morning. And I've been waking up consistently at between 4 and 6. Sometimes the latest is 7 in the morning, but I basically am eating by 7 in the morning. It's 6:30 right now, and I'm cooking. I returned to my YouTube channel. I actually celebrated my birthday, which is in January, which is a hard time for me to celebrate. I'm actually practicing singing. I sing to my cat all the time. I'm waiting to start an ecstatic DJ course. Um, I've written about topics and spoken about topics that I have not spoken aloud in public about before. I used to be pretty in demand for, serving on panels and doing like the little graduations and stuff like that. But what I want to talk about, the stuff that I'm super duper interested in, it's like mysticism, it's wisdom, it's unconventional solutions to problems that a lot of people have. I'm almost done filing for bankruptcy. The only reason I didn't actually file it is because then my wife decided she wanted to file because for some reason she stopped being afraid. It's like when you realize that you are not the money you make, when you realize that your self-worth is not tied to your credit score, and that when you have really good energy, people are more inclined to actually trust you because your intentions are pure, because you're trying to create stuff, you're trying to introduce beauty to the world. And recently it's come up to me that, this is a well-timed move away from Minnesota, which is my hometown or, home state. And there are a lot of patterns that I am so close to breaking now where, I remember my mom, yeah, honey, come on. I remember my mom still, when I call her, she's always warning me about something. And usually it's something she's watched on the news. Sometimes she's right about certain things like, yeah, I need to eat my vegetables. Yes. But Ayurveda and me researching my constitution was how I learned what actually worked for me. And I had to try several times and fall back into eating foods out of convenience and whatnot. And then I started to this is the last, couple months, I've actually taught myself how to prep and cook living whole food with very minimal work. Like I cook almost everything out of one pan or one pot. I basically I don't even peel my carrots most of the time. If they look good, I just chop it in half and throw it in the thing. And I like eating it that way. And carrots taste so sweet to me right now. Um, Other things that I've done. I went to Mexico. I recovered from an ankle sprain, which was the impetus to also heal ciprofloxacin antibiotic damage to my tendons and ligaments in my whole body. I started finally doing a mobility course. Shout out to Moves Method and the Mobility Toolkit. It's so effective for repairing the things that I've accumulated over the years. And if you're into somatics and knowing how much the body can hold stuff, mobility work is just as awesome in a lot of ways as somatic dance and things like that, because I also dance. Started cross country skiing, got a tattoo, signed up for community ed, started a few books. What else? Started reading a fiction book, which I rarely do. Kitty is playing with the blinds. There's just so much that has happened because I'm allowing myself to be creative and to follow these hunches, as crazy as they might seem to the outside. When I think about and feel just how vibrant my being is, especially I'm probably getting out of my lease early because I just found mold and I've had 2 other encounters with it. And the second time was 10 years ago when I had a heart attack. And I'm not panicked about it. I know that I can't be here any longer than I want to be here. And I also know that looking back at the last several months, I'm like, oh, these issues of me feeling more scattered than usual, because I used to have ADHD, I used to medicate for ADHD, and now with lifestyle changes, I don't have any problem with it. But yeah, I'm like, why is everything messy, and why do I feel really tired in the middle of the day and unfocused? And I realized that has to do with the mold. Me rolling my ankle probably had to do with the mold, and because the sinuses in the inner ear. I've had some skin stuff come up. But tell me why it was when my cat started itching, because I've had this cat for 2 weeks now. I was like, oh no, this is like, no, this is another being that doesn't have the ability to consent, right? To the trade off of there's mold. But I also just finally like got the cultures. I have pet mold now because I decided I don't want to boil the agar plates, and I don't want to check on the food or flip the food. I don't want to boil the agar plates, and I don't want to throw them in the trash. Um, so I'm just going to hang on to them and see how they evolve, which is actually just the kind of experiment that I love. And what else am I trying to say? Flipping my zucchini, or actually it's yellow squash. It's not technically zucchini, I guess. We assign so many different names to things that aren't really like that different from one another. So I also thought about doing some of these journal questions. I'm trying to figure out if I like try to do the artist's way while on the road, or if I just want to remain open to inspiration. Because when I'm on the open road, it's like the ideas just come to me, and I have the tools to document them. And I might even open up other channels, like TikTok, to talk about them as they come up. But for example, this evolution guide for quantum human design, it's now February 21st, but for February 19th through February 24th, the challenge is to learn to trust source, to know that you are fully supported, and to become proficient in the art of emotional alignment as your most creative power. So a really solid example of this is 2 days ago, I almost wrote my landlord back a really preemptively defensive email because, for example, my wife, when I asked her, like, hey, why do you think he wants to check out the place and talk in person? And her intuition, or I wouldn't call it intuition, her thought, mind, which lives in protection and fear, was like, oh, he wants to work out an arrangement off the books because he doesn't want it documented or something like that. And I heard that, and in some ways I'm really grateful that we have contrast, because that got me to realize that me writing this email the way I was writing it, thank you, shout out to Heart of the Soul again, Gary Zukov and Linda Francis, on the other side, because I recognized that I was writing this email out of fear and doubt and not love and trust. And so I closed it, and then, did some other stuff. Tina Reiki'd me and gave me a little fascia massage. And then before I went to bed, I emailed the landlord back and apologized, actually. Said, like, I'm sorry, I've been really tired in the middle of the day, which I was, which is why, I haven't called them back in the middle of the day. And then by the time I'm like up and at 'em, it's like, 5 o'clock, it's dinner time. And then I go to bed at like 7 or start winding down. So I actually apologized, and I said, hey, I'm available between, like, I think it was 8 and 10 tomorrow morning if you want to just stop by. Right. I responded in love and trust. And what I find really, really cool about that is, because I also now have learned that you can sue and get like all of your rent paid back, which I didn't know. Like, if I knew that 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been so wretched, because I went into a whole lot of debt to try to solve the mold problem, also because I felt stuck in the lease. And I also know that a neighbor was actually, our landlord there was a big corporate landlord, and they were not cooperative. Like, that was a different scenario, because she was literally suing them, and they were not, and she was suing them because they weren't being cooperative, and they had skimped on the renovation, which is why so many of us had mold issues. And when I look back at the people who got sick, and a couple people died in that building, and I realized that I'm really fortunate um, to know my rights more, to have self-worth in a way that I didn't grow up having, to also know that that's something to be grateful for because I didn't have it is also everything. Um, so yeah, I'm just working on any time that I get and feel tightness in my body to go, oh, like that is happening because my mind has a program that is acquired from somewhere that is not my soul, that is causing me to color this reality as either unsafe or untrustworthy. Because when I travel generally and I'm just in my, Venus and Sagittarius life, everything works out. Like the number of disasters that I could have had while traveling in Bali, I lost my debit card, which is my source of money. I lost my phone for a while. I punctured a lung, but every time one of those things happened, I remained open and relaxed about it. And each situation just resolved itself like almost magically. And what's interesting too is that getting into each of those issues was preceded by feeling like I had to do something, feeling rushed or being tired or feeling like I had to fix something in the case of the acupuncture. Because I had asked this acupuncturist to do something like in this area, which most acupuncturists will not touch in the States. Um, I do believe I got some big benefits out of it. It just happened to be that they pinpricked a lung. Um, and it resolved in like 2 or 3 days, and I got on a plane, which is exactly what they tell you not to do with a punctured lung. But I took scuba diving training, and they talked about, or they taught us that, you can rupture a lung, and that is, a pinprick versus like a part of your tissue that's like broken open from pressure are two different things, which I feel like was me using my logical mind. I think sometimes when people see my actions and they feel like a big leap because they are really big moves for them from their perspective, and most people live a prescribed life. I'm not insulting anybody. That also works for some of y'all. It does not work for me. When I see a solution and I'm done with an issue, I go there. And I have already seen patterns and I've already plotted out the way. But on an external view, and I think this is the case for so many people, um, creative people, which we're all creative, in my opinion, um, they seem like crazy leaps, but they're not. They're the most graceful way sometimes to get to a place without lying to yourself. Um, so anyway, there's an affirmation in this, a challenge, an affirmation, journal questions, and an emotional freedom technique set up. And it's like, I don't know if you get this too, but when I learn about something and I know it's super effective because I've done it a few times, I'm like, wow, it's so effective. I want to tell people about it. And then like, it'll take me like 3 years to get back to it. Um, but yeah, I say, but yeah, a lot. That some of these journal questions, do I trust that I'm fully supported? Intellectually, I get it now. Like I've seen the evidence, I've witnessed enough people, I've had the testimonials. What do I need to do to deepen that trust at this point is to embody it. Is to, you know, with all the stuff that's happening politically, I'm using so many air quotes. I know a lot of people would not recommend that I go drive down south and then go through super populated areas that are probably dealing with some enforcement for immigration and whatnot. But I also know that everything in my life has worked out for me. And I'm not saying that as somebody who had anything handed to them. Like, I'm saying that as someone who could have ended up dead, shot, in prison. If I had made the wrong friends in my neighborhood, oddly, the friends that went down that road were the ones that like told me like, no, like this isn't for you, you know? And like, I'm getting teary about this because like, I think those points when I was younger, it felt like, oh no, like this isn't, you don't belong here. But I think it was more like, this doesn't fit for you. It's not aligned for you. And I'm seeing the blessing in that. And like, it's been so rough in my home city for the things that I want to do. And the opportunities when you're famous, locally famous, I would say, for a particular thing, you get other people's perceptions of you, like keeping you a little small. I'm not saying that I'm victim to that, but it takes some effort for you to also shift your environment externally and internally before you can stand in that fully. Like I might come back, and I think I need time in other places to really cultivate, and not just like a, month long, 2 month long vacation, but like a life, like building another life for a while. So how do I align myself with abundant emotional energy? What practices or shifts do I need to make in my life to create and live in a more aligned way? I talked a little about this already. I've done a lot of what I think people would call spiritual or consciousness practices. Like I meditate, like I believe in yoga. I don't do it as regularly right now. I also feel like that inner work now has led me to go, oh, I need to actually take action on changing my external environment, and not through force, but being like, oh, there's mold in my apartment. I'm going to leave this apartment because I'm out of my lease early. I'm going to explore other places, and I'm going to trust my intuition about where I'm to settle. And do I surround myself with beauty? That's part of the aim. How can I deepen my experience of beauty in my life? I need to be outside. I need to be outside for like weeks, maybe months. Like outside. Yep. Exploring. What do I have faith in now? Myself, in a way that I have never had. What old gods of limitation do I need to stop worshiping? I feel like most religious gods, not mystic gods, like, or witchy gods, I would say, like the people that were burned because they were heretical, because they wouldn't fall in line with churches or state power. Um, those gods, there's so many. There's infinite gods. Like when I realized that Jesus was not my savior, he would never be my savior. He was a homie, someone who's been trying to tell us, like so many people who have seen the other side and done their practices, that I mean, I'm one day I think we're going to figure out that it's 100% true that Jesus went and learned things in the East and then brought them back, and then his narrative was like, glorified as a god, just the way Catholics are like, you're a saint, because it builds the church's power instead of our innate power to live gracefully and in alignment with nature and in harmony with one another. When we're not told what we need to do to be good or bad, like children generally aren't going up and harming other children on purpose. It's adults who have been trained being like, this is the right thing to do, and then going and having the crusades and wiping out I don't even know how many people, right? Like we need to stop doing that. Anyone who labels anyone else good or bad has an agenda. Like, let's figure that out. Like, keep it in here forever. Because that alone has kept me from getting marred up in conflicts that I don't belong in. And the last journal question is, go on a miracle hunt. Take stock of everything good that has happened in my life. Honestly, we started the session with that. And how much magic have I been blessed with? Like, universes worth. There are me in parallel universes that are living my like 50,000 kinds of my best life at this point. And the good that happened in my life just in this little section, this is a concentrated version because I think I put intention into creative living. Thank you, Julia Cameron. And I spent an enormous amount of time figuring out the patterns in my life through human design, a little bit through astrology. And just a last little note before I attend to my food, there's so much out there that is wisdom, but when you grow up and you hear about horoscopes and you're like, oh yeah, I read my one horoscope, it doesn't really tell me anything. It could mean you're out of alignment, but it also probably means that you're only looking at this little amount of text on one tiny part of your chart because that's what got popular enough to be published in newspaper back in the day. But really, now that AI exists and you can put, the, I don't know, average of 60 to 90 different elements of your chart and ask it to comprehensively look at your energy, and then on top of it be like, add my human design on top of it, and then on top of that be like, add my work history. It's like, I'm just so excited about where humanity's going. I don't pay attention anymore to the people who are like, we're going to lose jobs, because we're going to gain our souls. Once you get past the fear, once you get past the loss, honestly, for me, once I realized that bankruptcy is not a failure, it's written into our code for a reason. And part of that reason is allowing you to start and try new businesses. And the other part is, the credit card industry is predatory oftentimes. I'm not blaming them, because I had my role to play in there too. Like when the doctors couldn't help me out, I tried a bunch of alternative therapies. When the fire happened next door, we fundraised some money, but we also put some on credit cards. Just free yourself. That's the only thing left to do, is to get out of the older ways of living and get back to the ancestral ways of living, the indigenous ways of living, balanced with the capabilities of this modern era where everyone has the capability to have everything that they need if we just figured out how to pause and listen and share. That's it. I have way more than I need right now. I know it. I'm about to stuff just exactly what I need into the back of a truck and head west and let people house me until something feels really right. And I know that I'll find a job. I don't know if I'll call it a job. I'll find something that pays my bills, which are so minimal when you take debt out of the picture. Anyway, I need to eat now and apparently start packing. So this was a nice catch-up live for me, and more later.